What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Monty YouTube channel, and today's video is about catching winter bass offshore in deep water with an A-rig. Jumped in the boat with my buddy Ron, who's very good at idling around and locating those offshore bass, and we were catching some fish on spoons. If you haven't seen the spoon fishing video we did, it's really good. A lot of great tips. You know, Ron breaks down his technique. So check that out if you're curious about how to catch winter bass on a spoon. But we started noticing that those fish had moved up off the bottom. And once the fish get, 5 to 6 feet up off the bottom, the spoon is less effective. Sure, you could throw it out and kind of slow roll it through those bass, but there's other techniques that become better, and the A-rig is one of those. So as we lost those spoonfish, we idled around and we found that the fish had kind of moved up off the bottom. So we're fishing 22 to 27 foot of water, and those fish were down there in like 15-ish, 15 to 20, something like that. So they're up off the bottom, too far to really catch them consistently on the spoon, and that's when you have to switch tactics and fish with the A-rig. So as we get into this video, there's a lot of really good information. Ron does a tutorial on his setup for catching these A-rig fish. So here we go.
Oh, you picked up the cheater rig too.
Of course I did. You have all the fun. Size is the same.
Yeah. There he is. That's those fish that are going under the boat. I'm just kind of trolling it. Little guys. Little guy.
The A-rig is one of those baits. It's kind of got a bad rap. Some people like it, some people don't. It's kind of been coined a cheater's rig, which there are times when anybody can catch fish on A-rig. You can just go down the bank. We got wind-blown points and wind-blown deep banks, and you can catch fish. But fishing offshore with an A-rig is a little bit more tricky. The key is idling and using your electronics and not stopping until you find what you're looking for. You got to put in the time behind the wheel. Ron's excellent at that. He spent a lot of time doing it, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to get in the boat with him from time to time, and I learn a lot on these days, and this is something that I continue to work on too. But it's about idling. Finding the bait and finding the bass. You'll find bait, but a lot of times there's no bass relating to them. So you've got to not only find the bait, you've got to find the bass, and notice how they're set up. The key with that A-rig is to reel it a few feet above the fish. Like Ron mentioned, counting it down to the level that the bass are at, and try to visualize keeping that bait just a few feet above those bass, because bass like to feed up. They're not going to go down on that A-rig, but they will come up and snag it if it's just a few feet above them. There we go. That's what we're targeting with this A-rig. We picked up the cheater rig because a lot of these fish are up off the bottom. And that's kind of what we're looking for right there.
You letting it sink all the way to the bottom?
No, that one I did. Counted it down to about 15. Probably running it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Go, buddy.
Cheater rig. I don't know if it's a good one, but he slammed it. That's a good bite. It is a good bite. Ain't that decent? Had to pick up the cheater rig. Ron made me do it. Look at those spots on that fish. That's fun. I'm just throwing those Hawgz Custom Baits, swim baits on a Flash Mob Junior. Yeah.
Hold that double here for you, buddy.
Really?
Just missed it.
There we go. Double.
Got double.
Better fish too.
We're on the grebe pattern. The grebe out there.
A grebe?
Yeah. They're always out here. Yeah.
Nice.
Alright.
About the same size. Mine's a little bigger.
No, you're bigger. Yours is bigger. Oh yeah, you're sure.
Ta-da! Is that fat fish?
What's up, folks? We are out here offshore and we've located some bait fish, and the fish are up off the bottom. So when that happens, one of the best things to use is the old A rig. You know, some people call it the cheater rig, but it's not what it used to be. I mean, you still got to do your time, idle around, find the fish, and then you got to learn how to set up on them and make the proper cast. And Ron's really good at this. He spends a lot of time out here. So let's talk a little bit about your rig. Maybe you got a special setup, or what you got going?
Wouldn't say special. This is just a Flash Mob Junior. I prefer any A-rig that has smaller blades in general, and that creates less resistance, and it's just easier to work this big old thing in the water. The bigger the blades, the harder it is to get that bait down and keep it down. So it's just a depth control deal. And then the other thing I do a little different is I use small number 2 hooks. Not promoting any particular company, but Picasso makes a nice little swim bait head with number 2 hooks, which is perfect for these small Kytex. These are 3.5 Kytex.
What size weight is
These are
jig
16th.
16th, okay.
Yeah, now this lake isn't super deep. We're only fishing in maybe 25 to 30 foot of water is as deep as we're fishing. And you can take this bait and count it down fairly quickly, even in 20 to 30 feet of water. So I can fish this bait pretty efficiently through the whole water column, just depending on where the fish are. If I had heavier jig heads on there, I'd have to reel it too fast to keep the bait where I want it. And part of the deal with this A-rig is a slow, steady retrieve sometimes, or slow and then altering your retrieve.
So what kind of line, rod, reel, that kind of thing are you using?
For this lake, since we're not fishing a bunch of standing timber or anything like that, I prefer basically 17-pound fluorocarbon, and I don't have any trouble with it. If I get hung up, I can still sometimes straighten the hooks, or I can just send my lure retriever down and get it most of the time. And then I've got a 7'7" rod, again a 3-power, just like my spoon rod. It's got some tips so you can throw it, but plenty of backbone. And again 7'7", because you're lobbing this thing a long way. And if you can throw it with the wind, it is certainly easier. But the key really for the A-rig is you got to have your tackle balanced. Otherwise it's going to fight you all day long, and you're not going to want to do that. And there's days that they just want this A-rig, and you got to be able to do it, you know, most of the day. And I can fish this all day long, and I don't get tired or anything like that. It's very comfortable. Then my reel, this is one of the heavy-duty reels by Lowrance, and it handles the grinding that big bait all day long pretty good.
So when you're looking on the graph, obviously you're idling around looking for shad, looking for bass. And how do you approach a bass that's not on the bottom? Obviously, if they're on the bottom, you're just going to let it sink and slow roll it. But what's the key to catching those fish that are suspended up in the water column?
Yeah, pay attention to how fast your A-rig sinks. And what I would recommend is, like, if you're not sure, get in about 10 feet of water and let it sink to the bottom and count how long that goes down, how long it takes, and then you'll know. And so then, let's say you're out in 30 feet of water, but they're suspended in 15, which is kind of what we're doing right now. You'll know how long to count to get it down to about that depth. And then you want to bring this bait above the fish, not below the fish. When they're feeding on shad, they're usually feeding up. So maybe if they're in 15 feet, I count this down to 10 or something like that. And then on the retrieve, it's probably gonna pendulum at about that depth anyway. And then, you know, we're blessed. We've got the forward-facing sonar. You can see how deep your bait's running too. But if you're seeing fish at whatever depth, count it down to that, and then have at it.
So right here, just cast out, count it down to that fish, and just start reeling. Just takes a little practice, but the main thing is idling around until you find what you need to find.
Yeah, trust your electronics.
Trust your electronics.
A bit of peewee. You want? Coming up. It's weird.
Fluorocarbon versus braid on the A-rig. A lot of times I'm throwing 50-pound braid, especially if I'm power fishing shallower and there's a lot of wind involved. If you're out there deeper, Ron's a fluorocarbon guy and he catches them pretty good. So I would definitely listen to what he's saying. He's 17-pound fluorocarbon. You know, he's doing a lot of deep fishing and he's moving the bait super, super slow. I think if you're fishing around brush and heavy cover, you might be better off to sacrifice a few bites and have that heavy braid for a couple reasons. One, you're able to get the fish away from the cover. Two, if you're getting hung up a lot, you can straighten out those hooks with that braid. If you got fluorocarbon, you're gonna lose a few more rigs, and the rigs are like $30. So it's up to you. You just kind of have to go out there and play around. You definitely want to rod with a soft tip. I think soft tip is key. This is a 7'4" heavy. This is a Quantum G-Force. You know, it's a $100 rod. Actually, it's cheaper than that now. They've clearanced them out. But it's got a lot of tip. I think that tip is key. You make a better cast. 7'4", I think I said 7'4", but 7'4" to 7'6" rod. You know, you don't need a broomstick. You don't need a really long rod, but you do need some soft tip for a longer cast, and also that fish can grab that bait and load up. And that's another thing with A-rig fishing. You don't set the hook like you would normally set it when you're fishing a Texas rig or a jig. You just kind of reel in, and when you feel that bite, just kind of keep reeling. It'll load up, and you just do a little sweep set. That's all you need to do. The fish takes care of itself, but you don't want to set the hook hard because you will pull those swim baits away from the fish.
You saw that, didn't you? I like to get that on camera. That's cool.
That's cheap.
No, it's not. It's using your technology. Better fish.
A little better.
Oh yeah, it's a keeper. Nice fish.
Solid Lake of Egypt chunk.
Yeah.
Healthy.
Mm-hmm. Fatty. Good job,
That's
man.
fun.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, our fish moved on us, and this is something that you have to do a lot when you're out here fishing offshore, is you got to fire up the motor and you got to start scanning again and relocate the fish. Usually they don't go far, but if you're not seeing them on the graph, they're not there. So you just got to fire that boat up, move a little bit, relocate the fish, and repeat. So that's what we're doing. There we go, we've relocated the fish. We're running out of time. We got enough time for a few more casts. Man, they're thick down there. Let's see if we can catch a few before it gets totally dark.
By the boat?
Yep, I was watching those. I was getting ready to reel in and cast towards them. Cheater rig. Now that one took the gizzard shad colored bait. Interesting.
Check your local regulations as far as how many hooks you can have on an A-rig. Missouri allows 3 hooks on the A-rig. Illinois allows 2 hooks on the A-rig. Kentucky is 3 hooks. There are a few lakes in Illinois that allow 5-hook rigs. So you're just gonna have to do your research and figure out. If you're fishing a lake that does not allow the full 5-hook rig, you can use dummy rigs. So put hooks on your bottom 2 baits. If you can fish 3, put them on the bottom 2 baits and the middle wire, and then put your dummies on the top 2, because as you're reeling that A-rig over the top of the fish, they're gonna come up and hit those bottom 2 or that 3rd middle wire. A lot of times they key on that middle wire because it sticks out just a little bit further, and that's a good reason to put a bait that's a little bit different, maybe a little bit bigger, put some chartreuse on the tail, just something that that bass can focus on. There's a lot going on there. If something is a little bit different, that bass can key on that different swim bait, and you're gonna catch more fish by doing that. I typically keep the colors about the same, just some kind of minnow pattern. Sight flash is a good color, some kind of gizzard shad, pro blue, just something minnowy. And you can change the colors up, you know, depending on cloud color, cloud cover, and you know, sunlight penetration. It does make a difference. I've seen a lot of days where just making a little subtle change in the swim bait color, whether it be the color or the size, just making some changes with the swim bait will get you a lot more bites. And that's an advantage of having 2 people in the boat. If you have 2 people in the boat, one person can be throwing one color and the other person can be throwing another color, and you'll notice that one person's getting more bites than the other.
Here's what we're looking for with this A-rig. Got a big ball of shad there, and you can see these bass right above there. He's gonna back that up. So you're making that cast, and that's why, like Ron said, it's important to know how fast your A-rig falls.
16 feet.
Yeah, so you're gonna make that cast, and you're gonna count that A-rig down, and you want it to be a couple feet above those fish before you start your retrieve. And as the bait gets closer to the boat, you might actually have to slow your retrieve down to keep it down there, because it's gonna wanna rise. So you're just idling around looking for that picture right there, and that lets you know that it's worth your time to stop and make some casts. If not, you keep moving on until you find that. What's that right here?
That's the bridge.
That's a bridge.
Yep.
That's
What's
pretty
left
cool.
of the bridge. You fish on side scan. That's good. It's a good view of side scan right there.
Yep.
Fish in the shad.
Okay, we're gonna make a few casts and see if we can get a bite before it gets dark on us.
Oh yeah, there's a big fish down there. Pretty, not too far in front of the boat. I hate we're having to catch him on A-rig today, but it is what it is. The shad are coming towards you a little bit.
Sucker. Got him. Let it fall back down on him. I didn't see it, but I saw the fish out there. It's a better fish. It's starting to be some bigger ones show up.
Another over?
Nah, he's close.
Oh yeah, I bet he's 16.
Get my camera all juicy. Yeah. There's still singles out there swimming around. Nothing wrong with that fish.
Yeah.
There's a fish. Obviously, we idled, repositioned, you know, graphed the fish, and Ron counted that A-rig down to the proper depth, and that is the result. Yep. It's just that easy, but it's not.
Just believing in your electronics.
Need the pliers?
You
Okay.
hate it. Today's electronics don't lie.
We've actually caught a few off of the active target. Not actually seeing the bait, but seeing the fish and casting out towards them. Nice fish, man.
So,
Yeah. All right, that's a wrap, folks. Thanks for checking out this video. Hope you learned a little bit. We did. Give me a thumbs up if you appreciate the content. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And appreciate it, Ron. Had a lot of fun out here.
buddy,
Always a good time.
we may be going to commercial break, but we ain't done yet.
That's right. That's right. We'll fill in the goodness in between here and there. So, till next time.